The streets of Madrid gleamed under the warm glow of the evening sun, casting long shadows as people bustled about. Cristiano Ronaldo gripped the steering wheel of his sleek black Rolls-Royce, the low hum of the engine blending with the distant honking of traffic. It had been a grueling training session, but he felt good, focused, determined. As he drove through a quieter part of town, a sudden movement on the sidewalk caught his eye. His gaze flickered to the side, where a small, frail figure lay curled near the curb. A dog. A stray. Cristiano's grip on the wheel tightened. Something about the way the dog lay there, unmoving, struck a chord deep within him. A sharp honk from the car behind him jolted him back to reality, but instead of driving on, he made a split-second decision. He pulled over. Ignoring the curious stares of passers-by, he stepped out and approached the dog cautiously. Up close, it was even worse than he had feared. The small animal was trembling, its fur matted with dirt and blood. One of its hind legs was twisted at an odd angle, swollen and bruised. A deep gash ran along its side, raw and exposed. Cristiano crouched down, his heart clenching. "Hey, buddy," he murmured, extending his hand. The dog flinched, its eyes wide with fear. He had seen this look before, not in animals, but in people. The look of someone who had been abandoned too many times, who had learned not to trust. Carefully, he removed his jacket and draped it over the shivering creature. The dog tensed but didn't resist. "You're not staying here," he said firmly. Without hesitation, he scooped the dog into his arms. It was lighter than he expected, too light, its ribs pressing against its thin skin. As he carried it toward his car, murmurs rippled through the small crowd that had gathered. "Is that Cristiano Ronaldo?" someone whispered. "What's he doing with that dog?" another murmured. He didn't care. Let them talk. Right now, only one thing mattered, getting this dog the help it needed. A race against time. Cristiano placed the injured animal gently on the passenger seat, making sure it was secure before shutting the door. He slid into the driver's seat and revved the engine. He knew exactly where to go, the best veterinary clinic in Madrid. As he sped through the city, his pulse matched the rhythm of his racing thoughts. He had faced high-pressure situations before, but this was different. This wasn't about scoring a goal or winning a title. This was about saving a life. He glanced at the dog. Its eyes fluttered open briefly before closing again, its breathing shallow. "You're going to be okay," he muttered. At a red light, he quickly dialed a number. "Dr. Morales? It's Cristiano. I need you to prep for emergency surgery. I'm bringing in a badly injured dog." "No, I don't know what happened. Just be ready." The moment the light turned green, he pressed down on the accelerator. 15 minutes later, he pulled into the clinic's parking lot, tires screeching slightly as he stopped. Without wasting a second, he rushed out, cradling the dog against his chest. The receptionist's eyes widened. "Mr. Ronaldo," she stammered. "No time," he said urgently. "This dog needs help." Within seconds, a team of veterinarians emerged. A woman in a white coat stepped forward, her expression shifting from shock to determination. "We'll take it from here." Carefully, they lifted the dog from his arms and rushed it into the back. Cristiano exhaled sharply, his body tense. He had done what he could. Now, all he could do was wait. The clinic's waiting room was small but clean, filled with the scent of antiseptic and fresh linen. He sat down, elbows on his knees, hands clasped. Minutes stretched into an hour. His phone buzzed with messages, teammates, his agent, reporters wanting statements. He ignored them all. A soft voice pulled him from his thoughts. "Mr. Ronaldo?" He looked up to see the veterinarian, her face unreadable. He stood immediately. "How is he?" She sighed. "He's stable, but it was close. Severe malnutrition, dehydration, and a fractured leg. The wound on his side was infected. We've cleaned it, but he'll need surgery." Cristiano clenched his jaw. The thought of this little creature suffering alone made his chest tighten. "Do whatever it takes," he said. "I'll cover all the costs." The vet nodded. "We'll prepare him for surgery right away." As she disappeared into the back, Ronaldo let out a breath. He wasn't sure why he felt so strongly about this dog, but something told him this wasn't just a random encounter. Some things were meant to be. Cristiano sat in the waiting room, his foot tapping anxiously against the white-tiled floor. The steady hum of the clinic's air conditioning filled the quiet space, but it did nothing to ease his nerves. He wasn't used to feeling helpless. On the pitch, he was in control. He could influence the game, dictate the pace, change the outcome with his skill and determination. But here, all he could do was wait. His eyes flickered toward the large clock on the wall. It had been over an hour since the veterinary team took the dog into surgery. Every minute felt like an eternity. His phone buzzed on the chair beside him, but he barely glanced at it. Messages flooded in, his agent, his teammates, reporters. He knew the media would catch wind of this soon, but none of that mattered right now. A soft voice pulled him from his thoughts. Mr. Ronaldo? He looked up to see Dr. Morales, the lead veterinarian, standing in front of him. Her expression was calm but serious. He stood immediately. How is he? He asked, his voice steadier than he felt. She sighed. The surgery went well, but it was a close call. He had severe internal bruising, and his hind leg was fractured in 2 places. We managed to set the bone, but he'll need weeks of recovery. Cristiano exhaled, tension easing slightly from his shoulders. But he's going to be okay? She nodded. Yes, but he's weak. He's been malnourished for a long time, and his body has been running on nothing but survival instincts. It's going to take time for him to recover fully. Cristiano's jaw tightened. The thought of the little dog struggling on the streets, ignored and alone, made his stomach twist. Can I see him? Dr. Morales smiled gently. Of course, but he's still very drowsy from the anesthesia. He followed her down a hallway lined with medical rooms, the faint scent of antiseptic in the air. She pushed open a door, and his heart clenched at the sight before him. The small dog lay curled on a soft blanket inside a recovery kennel, bandages wrapped around his leg and side. And 4 was attached to his paw, delivering fluids to keep him stable. His breathing was slow, but steady. Cristiano crouched down beside the kennel, watching the little fighter sleep. For a long moment, he just sat there, his hands resting on his knees. Then, as if sensing his presence, the dog stirred. His eyes flickered open slightly, weak and unfocused. Cristiano extended a hand, careful not to startle him. The dog's nose twitched, and then, to his surprise, he let out a soft whimper and nudged his fingers with his nose. Something tightened in Cristiano's chest. You're safe now, he murmured. No more suffering. Over the next few days, Cristiano returned to the clinic as often as his schedule allowed. Between training sessions and media obligations, he always found time to check in on the dog. The staff had given the little guy a temporary name, Blanco, because of his predominantly white fur. But Cristiano wasn't sure if that name would stick. Day by day, the dog grew stronger. The first time he managed to lift his head fully, Ronaldo was there, grinning like he had just won the Champions League. That's my boy, he chuckled. The first time Blanco ate an entire meal without hesitation, Cristiano was the one holding the bowl. And the first time he wagged his tail, however weakly, Ronaldo felt something deep inside him shift. This wasn't just about rescuing a stray anymore. This was something more. On the 5th day, Dr. Morales approached him as he sat beside Blanco's kennel. He's improving much faster than we expected, she said. It's amazing what proper care and a little love can do. Cristiano smiled, scratching the dog's ears. He's a fighter. He is, she agreed. We think he'll be ready to leave in a few days. Do you have any thoughts on where he'll go? Cristiano hesitated. The logical answer was to find a good home for Blanco, someone who had experience with rescue dogs, who could give him the love and care he needed. But something inside him resisted that idea. Blanco had already been abandoned once. Cristiano couldn't bear the thought of him going through that again. He looked down at the dog, who was gazing up at him with those same soulful eyes from the first night. As if he already knew. Cristiano exhaled. The decision had already been made in his heart. I'll take him home. Cristiano stood outside the veterinary clinic, his arms crossed as he gazed through the glass doors. The past week had been a whirlwind, balancing training, press conferences, and late-night visits to check on Blanco. But today was different. Today, Blanco was finally coming home. The automatic doors slid open, and Dr. Morales stepped out, a warm smile on her face. "Ready for the big moment?" she asked. Cristiano smirked. "I think the real question is he ready?" At that moment, a vet technician emerged, carefully leading Blanco on a leash. He was still bandaged, but his posture was stronger, more confident. His once dull eyes now sparkled with curiosity as he took in the outside world. When Blanco spotted Ronaldo, his tail, previously limp from weakness, gave a slow but determined wag. Cristiano crouched down, opening his arms. "Come on, buddy." For a second, Blanco hesitated. Then, summoning every ounce of strength, he took a step forward. Then another, and another. Before Ronaldo knew it, Blanco was nuzzling into his chest, his small body pressing against him with absolute trust. Cristiano chuckled, rubbing the dog's head. "Yeah, that's my boy." Dr. Morales watched the scene with a knowing smile. "I think he's already chosen you." Cristiano glanced up, nodding. "I chose him too." Blanco sat in the passenger seat, his head resting on the soft blanket Ronaldo had placed for him. Occasionally, he glanced over at his new owner, as if making sure this was all real. As they pulled into Ronaldo's gated mansion, Blanco's ears perked up. The grand estate, with its sprawling gardens and luxurious architecture, was a far cry from the cold streets he had known. Ronaldo carried him inside, setting him down gently on the plush dog bed he had bought. "All right, Blanco," he said, kneeling beside him. "Welcome home." Blanco sniffed the bed, then looked up at Ronaldo with an expression that almost seemed grateful. As the night settled in, Cristiano lay on his couch, watching a football match on TV. Blanco was curled up nearby, but every now and then, he would lift his head and check if Ronaldo was still there. Finally, as if reassured, Blanco let out a deep sigh and drifted into sleep. Cristiano smiled. For the first time in a long while, it wasn't a goal, a trophy, or a victory that made him feel fulfilled. It was this. Days turned into weeks, and Blanco's transformation was nothing short of incredible. At first, he was hesitant, cautious about his new surroundings. But with time, he began to trust. He quickly bonded with Cristiano's children, especially little Eva, who giggled every time Blanco licked her hand. Even Ronaldo's other pets, including his 2 cats, eventually warmed up to the newest member of the family. Training Blanco became part of Ronaldo's daily routine. Every morning, after his own workouts, he spent time teaching the dog simple commands: sit, stay, come. Blanco, eager to please, picked up on them quickly. "He's got the heart of a champion," Ronaldo joked to his friends. And just like that, Blanco wasn't just a rescue anymore. He was family. Unsurprisingly, news of Ronaldo's rescue spread fast. Journalists wrote articles about his act of kindness, social media exploded with praise, and fans from around the world sent messages of admiration. One evening, as Ronaldo scrolled through his phone, he came across an article titled, "Cristiano Ronaldo scores his greatest goal, saving a life." He chuckled to himself. But it wasn't about publicity or being seen as a hero. Blanco had changed his life just as much as he had changed Blanco's. And no amount of trophies could compare to that. Months later, as Ronaldo prepared for another crucial match, Blanco sat beside him in the locker room. The once fragile dog was now strong, his coat sleek and his eyes full of life. As the team bus arrived, Ronaldo knelt down and scratched Blanco's ears. "Wish me luck, buddy." Blanco licked his hand, tail wagging. With a final pat, Ronaldo stood and walked toward the bus. But just before stepping inside, he turned back. Blanco was still there, watching him with unwavering loyalty. And in that moment, Ronaldo knew, no matter how many stadiums he played in, no matter how many trophies he won, this would always be his greatest victory. Because he hadn't just saved Blanco's life. He had gained a best friend,